August 2016, I went to my first class about how to take care of hair loss, and it was a system that was woven on. It was the best thing since sliced bread until I knew it wasn't. And then in October 2016, I learned a process called grafting that changed the whole trajectory of my business. Now, I want you to listen to that timeline. August 2016, October 2016, my salon for fine and thinning hair to profound hair loss started construction on January 2017. I opened a 1,600 square foot salon April 2017 just for fine and thinning hair. Now, I had a full book of clients from 2016 to 2017. I did 85,000 that year, chasing my tail all day, double booked, nothing left for my family when I got home. And forget it, nothing left for me. The first year I opened, I went from 85,000 to 360,000 with just me.
Welcome to Brazen and Bold. Today we are joined by the amazing Shanna Moll, a trailblazing stylist, educator, and the brilliant mind behind Brilliant Bonding. She's here to share how she's transforming the way stylists think about hair loss, business growth, and heart-led success. Thank you so much for joining us, Shanna.
Thank you for having me.
You've got over 37 years in this industry. That's more years than most of us have even figured out how to do our hair, right? Let alone anything else. Your energy is amazing. I had the chance to meet you at a recent Beauty Leadership Lab workshop. I was taken by your style, your energy, and just your warmth and connection. And I'm so happy to interview you, and share that with our guests. You know, you've built and sold a salon for over 7 figures, and that's a really incredible milestone. I want you to share a little bit about your journey getting there and kind of like what got you even engaged in our industry to start with.
Well, I went to a high school for theater, so I did a lot of makeup and hair, and so that's how I became a hairdresser. I was a hairdresser for 29 years. What really changed it for me is I went to Israel. And not just because I'm Jewish, but I also walked the steps that Jesus walked. And the passion there and we all come from the same place. We all have the same color blood. When I got back from there, I always believed in God, but all of a sudden I had this like undying, like listening. And hair loss just got like dropped in front of me, you know? And I said to my husband, why am I not educated in this? And he's like, I don't know, go get educated. So August 2016, I went to my first class about how to take care of hair loss, and it was a system that was woven on. It was the best thing since sliced bread until I knew it wasn't. And then in October 2016, I learned a process called grafting that changed the whole trajectory of my business. Now, I want you to listen to that timeline. August 2016, October 2016, my salon for fine and thinning hair to profound hair loss started construction on January 2017. That's how quickly 5 clients, the amount of profit margin and emotional satisfaction of taking care of these clients. I opened a 1,600 square foot salon April 2017 just for fine and thinning hair. Now, I had a full book of clients. The business grew so much that I could have ended up back in my salon suite. It was growing exponentially. And so I hired a hairdresser to take over my clientele and give me more room to grow that part of the business. From 2016 to 2017, I did 85,000 that year, like every other hairdresser that's watching this, chasing my tail all day, double booked, nothing left for my family when I got home. And forget it, nothing left for me. So after building this business, the first year I opened, I went from 85,000 to 360,000 with just me.
85,000 to 300 and what?
60.
Wow. So 6 months after you realized that dealing with profound hair loss and devotion to the like restoration side of things, open a space. And within 12 months, you more than 3x your business.
Yes. And it is because of the profit margins. And it is because it's so specialized. And it is because we need you, the hairdresser with the artistic skills. I can teach anybody how to do brilliant bonding. It's on my website. You can purchase it. And so I can teach anybody how to do that. But I am not going to teach people how to be an artist and cut and color and blowout. So they come with those skills already to make things look natural and beautiful, and also come with that high customer experience. So, like, I opened the salon as a 5-star salon. The experience was 5-star, and I had zero competition. So, actually, a hair club was down the street from me, but we had no competition.
Right. I mean, you were in a class of your own. What were the key principles that really guided you in building this thriving business or building this five-star experience?
Well, definitely by that time, I think I was 28 or 29 years in, definitely all of that. I've always worked for myself. In all of those years, I only worked for somebody else 5 years. So
Cool.
I've been an entrepreneur and a visionary my whole career. And I will tell you, it's funny, this is bold and brazen. I just went to my husband and said, I'm going to the bank and getting $100,000 and we're opening this salon. And that's what I did. I just used all of my education. I also have to say, because talked about Israel, I am Jewish and my parents always owned their own businesses. So
Mhm.
I learned how to be an entrepreneur. I learned what to do and what not to do. I learned to bring in the people who have the skills that I don't, so I can be the best me.
Okay, I love that you've touched base on that because having your background first of all in faith and where you're like, yeah, I kind of believe, but then you went and you listened and you downloaded and you were part of this experience. And I also like how you immersed yourself in the inclusivity of your experience while you're in Israel, realizing like the commonality and the bond. And then also talking about that work ethic that you learned from your parents and the entrepreneur skills. So these are just huge foundational keys. And I think, what you touched on kind of also parlays into working with people with hair loss. It sounds like compassion and heart is such a huge part of what you do. I want to know, how did that integrity and compassion play into your strategy? Because a lot of people don't talk about that when they're talking about business, right?
Right. So, first of all, you have to be an empath. If you try and do this just for the money, you will fail miserably. I won't work with anybody who isn't completely transparent in their business with integrity. And what's really funny, that first year, I did hire a publicist who didn't do much, but she did get me on a national talk show for small businesses. And because this was the second year, I think it was the second year after I opened, or close to the middle or second year, this show. And they keep talking about small businesses and business models. And what was my business model? Nobody builds a business like this. They've never heard of this kind of growth in a business. And I said, I run my business with transparency and integrity. That's my business model. Do you know that they asked me 3 times and they changed like how they asked me different words about my business model. And the third time I said to them, I don't know what you don't understand. If I know, right? On a national talk show. There's your brazen. I don't know what you don't understand. My business model is transparency and integrity. And if more companies in the world would run their businesses that way, they would be much more successful.
It's like I'm asking you 3 times. They're like, there's certainly something else. Like, okay, that's cute. Pat you on the head.
Right.
Now, what do you really do to grow
Exactly.
3x
Right.
and that was it?
Right. And they wanted some Harvard model or they wanted and that's just not how I did it. Blood, sweat, and tears, and empathy, and a background in business. Without a degree, it's really funny. One of the major wig and hair replacement companies in the United States, John and Stella, who own John Renault, came to the salon because they had heard about me. And we had an instant connection. And they're looking around and they're like, oh my God, I've just never seen it but like this before. And they're like, well, where did you get your MBA? And I said, my Jewish parents. And they're like, you didn't go to college? I was like, I went to college for 1 year. And look.
It's a unique combination of a left brain, right brain integration where your creative side was able to marry with business savvy and the acumen you learned from real life experience. Like you said, you worked for somebody else out of that 30 something years, only for 5 of them. So
Yeah.
there's been a lot of time, likely trial and error and experience and exposure that taught you that.
Oh, yeah.
Um, what would you say are the biggest lessons you learned along the way guiding your business skill set?
Well, I would say, through the years of hairdressing, I had to figure out how to make a living and be able to pick up my kids from school and all of that. And so I think with the business background I had and the passion as a hairdresser, um, and then also trying to find a little balance in my life is how I did that.
So this was a lot of trial, error, reiterating, and then
Mhm.
recalibrating and doing again. And a lot of people, they try, they fail, or they try and they get frustrated. And like you mentioned, burnout, running yourself ragged, no time for you, let
Uh-huh.
alone your family or loved ones.
Uh-huh.
A lot of us don't, it's hard for us to incorporate and implement those lessons and then refocus and come back. So that's really that speaks a lot about your own personal value system and your own integrity. I also loved how you talked about you won't work with someone who's doing it just for the money. You will not work with somebody just because
No.
they want to buy your method, talk to you about brilliant bonding, want to learn from you. If they're not there with heart-led compassion, they're not a fit for you as a client. And I think
No.
that's something that's really important for those listening to hear, whether or not you're building a business around consulting, leading a training program, or just hiring team members on any level. If you want to live in a way with business that feels comfortable, supported, you've got to focus on alignment. And no one
Mhm.
can dictate what your value system is. Every one of us probably has a different type of value system and a set of
Mhm.
priorities that we focus on. I think it's really
Mhm.
important from what I'm the thing that the business show that you were on couldn't get straight after asking you 3 times is identify what matters to you. Identify what your
Right.
values are. Identify what's gonna lead you forward, and it's gonna feel the best to you holistically, and then
Right.
find people who align to that, who are ready to
That's
carry that
right.
forward with you. 'Cause, you think about, like, wavelengths, you think about, even, like, music sounds or vibrations, like, if you've got something that harmonizes, it flows really well together. If you've got
Right.
something that's, discordant, you're gonna have sound waves clashing and clashing, and it's gonna just be a lot of chaos versus moving
Right.
forward and in a lot of ways, so that's huge, that
Right.
integrity piece, I love.
And well, the other thing, like I was talking about, hiring people around you who do what needs to be done that you either don't have the wheelhouse or don't want to do it. So I would not have built the business I did without a woman named Jenny, who I knew for 18 years before. And the type of relationship where I was like, here are the books. She needed to make a certain amount of money when I hired her, and it was a lot. And she came back with I here are the books, figure it out. She came back with a proposal that stair stepped until she got to that base salary. And I was chasing the same $20,000. I'm somebody who pays everything off at the end of every month. But I kept chasing this $20,000 because I didn't know what I didn't know, right? And so I didn't have my operating expenses for 6 months in my account. I just thought about build out. First lesson, big first lesson. She came in and with 3 months, done. Everything was in its place the way it should be. We paid off the loan in 5 years.
Wow.
So without her, I want people to be real clear on this. Without her, I would not have built a $1.3 million business. You have to have a team that supports you in the way you are. And then when you hire a team, like one person you can do it with, right? But when you hire a team, they have to align with you and you have to align with them, which is what we're seeing in the industry today now, big time. But I think it's important. And owning a hair restoration studio, we called it a hair loss studio. Nothing on the door about hair loss. And the profit margin allows you to take care of a team where they stay with you.
That's significant. And I think you really emphasize Jenny, which I love the shout out to her and acknowledging that, your success was built on integrity,
Right.
compassion, and then empowering yourself by leading other people and allowing them to shine in their strengths and skill sets so that
Yes.
you can really focus on your zone of genius, on your divine mission, your sacred work that you were
Mhm.
asked to do.
Mhm.
and you're it's your trip to Israel. But I think realizing what really is asked of you, and I mean, we're not to be good at everything. And I think a lot of
Right.
times, especially in smaller businesses, taking the leap and the investment into building a team, that team being someone that you hire that's not a wage earning producer, but someone who's not a wage earning producer, it's very hard to invest high dollars in that. If
Right.
Jenny came to you and was like, I'm a six-figure stylist, hire me, you'd be like, yep, I'll hire you today. But Jenny's costing, air quotes, costing your money or your business money.
A lot of money.
And then you did that, you invested, and within 3 months, you were able to start paying things off and balance your books and get moving forward. Think about what it would have cost you to continue chasing the same $20,000. You are talking to a huge passion of mine, which is strategic delegation. So I love that
Mhm.
you spotlight that. That was a huge risk and it was a huge trust for you to take that leap.
Mhm.
And it
Mhm.
enabled all of those burdens off your plate to give to Jenny, for Jenny to come up with a proposal, for Jenny to have empowerment and ownership,
Yep.
and then you could go straight. That's how you triple your business. You have 3 team members at this time, and in 7
Mhm.
years, you went from an $80,000 business to 3 team members producing wages,
Right.
producing work, and built a $1.3 million business. Now that's a
Mhm.
tremendous jump. Tell me what was in place for you to be able to accomplish that?
Okay, so, I worked with a company out of Italy. I learned trichology, which is the science of scalp health and hair growth, and that is the first part of the business model. And their product, I mean, I was one of only 50 in the United States licensed to use this product. From the day I started, I was number 1 to number 3 the whole time I was with them. The price of those systems ranged any completely custom 3D camera, design, every texture, color, density. I mean, this system, you were creating their scalp color, their hair. So the systems cost anywhere at that time from $5,000 to $9,000 for one, and you have to have two. So we always talk about getting out of our own way with beauty budget, right? That was one of the hardest things for me to do because you're sitting in front of people who are crying and broken. So using a product that was that expensive with a good profit margin, and then using other companies that had great product. Now, I'm real clear and transparent that the hairdresser or the salon, it is very expensive to get into. But that's how I was able to generate so much money. Now, it's great that I could generate money, right? But what was my net profit, right? So my net profit was 30%.
And that's unheard of in our industry. It's
That's right.
another thing. If you're generating $1.3 million and your profit margin's 2%, who cares? You're
Right.
running yourself ragged for nothing,
Right.
right? So you were able then a massive profit margin again, having taken place because you invested in the highest quality technology. You
Yep.
invested in a team that was able to really move forward in the work that you knew you had to do. And I think
Mhm.
something that's important to accentuate, you're talking about these people who are in your chair with this profound hair loss
Oh,
and they're broken, they're hurting. It's, I think, especially important in those moments that you not only lead with compassion, but integrity as well, because there are people who will take advantage of somebody who's like, I'm desperate to do anything. And then it's like, well,
right.
I want to promise the world to you. And then it really is unfair taking advantage of people. And that, I'm going to say, some people have done this where they're like, I'm going to capitalize on this desperate
Mhm.
person who would do anything to have hair
Mhm.
restored.
Mhm.
And that's a way to get a lot of money in a little time and then to collapse quickly, let
Yep.
alone, I don't know how people like that sleep at night. But sure, you could go throughout it and take advantage of people, but that's
Mhm.
not a way to build a sustained business or a life that's worth talking about, right? We do
Right.
not want that. We do not want that in our lives. I want to understand a bit and brilliant bonding. What was your inspiration for that? Um, what was what's the secret sauce, and tell people why it's so exceptional in the trichology world.
Okay. So the brilliant bonding isn't in the trichology world. It is in the hair restoration world. I learned that process called grafting in the beginning. And then I took that process and I changed some things about it that I didn't like and what it did. And then I progressed it more and then I started calling it long hair bonding. Well, then all of a sudden people in the community and companies started calling it long hair bonding. So during that time, I also changed long hair bonding and I got the process to a step by step. If you follow it, you will be successful. And I trademarked Brilliant Bonding. And also, I'm working on right now, that won't be out for a while, Brilliant Business.
Hey, business owners. Yes, you. I know you're juggling it all: marketing, admin tasks, websites, podcasts, social media. The list never ends. That's where Spark comes in. We're a virtual assistant company built just for small business owners, because once you're able to delegate, we know you'll be able to dominate. Our clients are seeing up to 30% increase in social media engagement and sales, all by letting us handle the behind the scenes work. Not to mention an incredible boost in flexibility, profit, and time. So scan the QR code right now to schedule a free chat with my team. Let's make you efficient AF and help you focus on what you do best: growing and leading your business. Again, thank you for the correction. Trichology is going to be dealing with the scalp and hair health, signs of hair loss, correct?
Yes. Trichology is the science of scalp health and hair growth, and it is the first part of the journey of hair loss. It's the first part of scalp health. You know, we had people who came in who were excess oily, who had seborrhea, dermatitis, and we were able to help them and cure these things that doctors couldn't with natural products.
So that's the pre-work, essentially. Like,
Yes.
or tying the two. So that's the pre-work. That is the difference between, I'm going to slap a lace front wig on you, I'm going to make your hair look pretty by putting this on top of it. You're going back to the foundation of treatment and understanding with science and natural treatments. And then you're also going into the restoration part, which is the second piece of what you do in the Brilliant.
Right. So the whole education that I have now, it's called Transforming with Scalp Health, Daily Solutions in Hair Restoration. So the business model was, yes, treating what we needed to treat, and then also growing hair back. And we can prove it. And we have clinical studies and all of that. Then the next step is somebody who didn't want to go to Brilliant Bonding, which I will tell you 70% of our business was Brilliant Bonding. We did daily wear, toppers and wigs, for people who wanted to do that. We had a solution for everybody who walked through the front door. The Brilliant Bonding allows a person to live their life like they did when they had a lot of hair. It gives them the ability to swim, to shower, to skydive if they want, ride a motorcycle. It's not going anywhere. And you come in every 4 to 6 weeks to rotate the two systems. So it's just like going and getting your hair done every 4 to 6 weeks and paying for all that. Well, now you're paying for Brilliant Bonding and beautiful hair. And oh, by the way, you don't have to color your hair because your highlights and everything are in your system, because I have artists on my team who are going to take your inspiration picture and give it back to you.
Okay,
and so
that's amazing. And it's art. Like, that is art and sculpting and thoughtfulness. It's not just, here's a piece of hair. It's thoughtfully and very, very bespoke, this very custom solution, which is why you can command so much and you have the profit margin you see. And that's a massive testimonial toward specialization, customization, pouring your heart into it. Again, it's a huge risk when someone's like, well, I've got my retouch every 4 weeks. That's my bread and butter. What suggestions do you have for people who might be a little bit nervous to take that kind of leap? Like, what would you say would be a recommendation if you've got a stylist who's like, well, I'm considering specializing? How do you help them overcome that kind of fear of letting go of, like you mentioned, your full book of business, doing 80,000 a year, into an opportunity? You know, if I'm going to let go of $80,000, that's scary.
Yeah.
And if I'm letting go of it, I know it's 100,000, that's cool. But people who are in that middle, how do you help them overcome fear to step into those opportunities?
So when you teach them the business aspect, so let's say you have one client, and I work in many socioeconomic areas. So I can help the person who charges $35 for a haircut up to the salon I just taught that was a $2 million salon. So how you get them over that is they have to buy 2 systems. Let's just say each system costs $2,000. Okay. Well, you're going to make $1,000 off each system right away. So there's $2,000. And then I'm going to ask you what your
Mhm.
hour's worth. And I'm really surprised how many people don't know what their hour's worth. So, what are you worth hourly? So, if you're worth hourly $75 an hour, then it's a 2 hour service. You're going to charge $75 for each hour.
Mhm.
When you start, there's a little bit of leap of faith because I tell you, make that client your last client of the day. It's going to take you 3 hours, while you're perfecting your skills. You're just gonna have to be okay with that. The more you practice, the more you do, the service is a 2 hour service and can be a little less depending on the client, the situation. So think about all the profit margin in the alternative hair world. And I will tell you, in the alternative hair world, the profit margin is 3.2 times.
Wow. And it's just like anything. Some people might say like, "Oh, I wanna learn extensions. It's such a high ticket item," but again, you usually I know on my team, people are taking training, they're taking time off from behind the chair,
Mhm.
and then they're taking models to just their installs, and then they're perfecting it, and the first few times are arduous and painstaking,
Right.
and then they pick up speed and
Yeah.
momentum, and pretty soon, you've got someone who's moving and grooving and building out a $5,000-$6,000 day. So I think that's a
Right.
great just bearing in mind any new skill set, it's gonna you've gotta start off by devoting the time to educate yourself,
Right.
take time away from the grind to
Right.
improve, and then
Right.
you go back and you're grinding less, making more. So it's mechanics of business, like you said. You mentioned we don't talk about or we don't teach business in beauty school, right?
Mhm.
That
Right.
model, a double model, that beauty school model, and that's why we're seeing so many more mentoring programs and other
Yeah.
things happening in that development. Um, I want to talk a little bit about how you're using education to empower and create emotional impact with the Studio You education, how you mentor
Yes.
stylists.
Yes.
W- What do people what can they expect when they work with you about creating and adding new streams of revenue and income while staying inside their values? Because that's a huge piece. Like how so they don't teach business. How are we going to learn?
Right. So the first thing I say to a student who I'm coaching is, look, if you're not going to come to our sessions prepared from the last time and the things you were supposed to accomplish, I'm wasting your money and you're wasting my time. So I really work, like you said, with students, and I have to change to mentees. I don't know, student for me is rubbing me the wrong way right now. Mentee, they have to have that passion, they have to have that drive, and they have to be willing to be open enough to make some mistakes, some challenges. So when we work together, I teach them. So you have a stylist, they have a full book, they want to get into hair replacement, they're in a salon suite. Okay. So we build them in that salon suite until they've got a profit margin that they can take and put back into the business to either move into a larger suite and get an assistant. Then that assistant will take over your mainstream hair slowly so you're not losing the revenue. You've trained this person, your clientele trusts you, believes in you, and see what you've been doing. So my clients were really willing to go over to the stylist. So it's kind of those little steps. Like I teach them, you can have an assistant. This is how you hire. And if you are having an assistant, then you are freer to do the consultations. And you want to teach that assistant how to do the services too, the switching out of the systems.
You're teaching the art of scalability as well, which I think
Yes.
that is also a leap of faith. Hiring someone to replace you can be very scary.
Yes.
And it's also very important. You are mentoring people,
Yes.
how to mentor people, so that
Yes.
they're able to take their skill set, transfer it to someone else who can start to assist them in the basics and the replicated processes. And then
Yep.
the person that you're mentoring is going to now learn how to step into a higher skill set. They're going
Yes.
to learn how to do the bigger picture consultations and generate movement in the business. This is all a process and a leap of faith to go
Right.
into and do.
Right. And
Yeah.
you know, a lot of stylist mentees that I work with don't want to go in that direction. They want to do what works for them, which is fantastic because think about this. The team in the salon that I used to own only worked 4 days a week. They only saw 3 clients a day. Half of their health insurance was paid for. They got $2,000 a year for education. They had a 401k matching. That was because of the profit margins. And that's because they were making the money for me. Like, I
Yeah.
needed to take
So
care of
to
them.
give Mhm.
Exactly. So the single stylist in a salon suite is going to be able to create that same life that my team got to have. But for them, you only see 3 clients a day. It's
Oh, doesn't that sound like a relaxing moment? Anybody who's booked on the half hour and double booked is like, how is anybody making it work and not with the grind and wear and tear on their body? So, the model is not for everybody,
right.
but people who are gonna work on trichology and hair restoration, if their
Yes.
passion is there, the margins are there. Does
Yes.
Studio U Education other stylists who are interested in trichology or hair restoration?
Yes. Yes. So I do the business coaching. And, I talk about what's your gross, what's your net. So many people don't know that.
They're like,
Yeah.
gross.
Ri
No, it's gross. Yeah, I think it's a bit. Yeah, and like you said, what's your hourly rate? What are you worth an hour?
yeah.
I don't know. I charge 100 a hair. Things like that. You're right.
Right.
You're helping people understand the business component. So can people engage with your brilliant business that you're working on launching?
Yes.
Can people engage with this and choose just a certain education platform with you that wouldn't go into trichology, so they can get just
Yes.
the specific courses that
Yes.
they need?
Yes, that's called my coaching. So I have an hourly coaching.
I love it.
Um, and I will tell you guys, because I sold my business and I'm semi-retired and I travel the country in my Airstream, I absolutely value my time, but also value and love working with stylists and changing their lives. So my coaching is $100 an hour, which the people around me, the educators around me, the group of educators that I educate kind of on the same circuit, right? My business coach was like, and I had a business coach, right? You get to a $1.3 million business and now you're semi retired and you want to build Studio U. I got a great business coach. And she said to me, "You don't value your hour? Your hour is worth so much." I said, "But the satisfaction for me is worth more. I do it because I want to." And so my coaching's $100 an hour.
That's an empowered place to be. You get to choose what your rate is, whether or not you could command more. It's like, this works for me because, and I want to do it this way because. And I'm going to say that's ultimate freedom. Money can lead to freedom, absolutely. But I know many people stuck, chained down, and weighed down by golden handcuffs.
Yeah.
So I absolutely am about, like you are, prosperity and abundance without burnout. By
Right.
the same token, the real freedom is saying, I want to do this because I feel like offering this service at this rate, or I want to be able to gift this because it
Right.
doesn't mean I'm going to make the most money. Sometimes people get trapped by a mindset around it has to be worth this much. So
Right.
there's a lot about a mindset shift in there too.
Oh, yeah.
Um, what do you think the first step, like to a stylist or a business owner listening, what do you think the first step a stylist can take to make a shift into creating prosperity without burnout?
So the first step is going to studioueducation.com. You're going to scroll all the way down to the bottom where it says book a complimentary discovery call. That's your first step. Because then when I meet with you, I will be able to say, yes, let's work together. Yes, this is a fit for you. And if it's not, I'm going to tell them this isn't a fit for you or I'm not a fit for you. I think it's really important that, kind of like with the client and not taking advantage of them. I think it's really
Yeah.
important for whoever you work with, that mentee that you are working with or meeting you for the first time, that they get you immediately. Like they know what they're stepping into, the trust. So that 30-minute discovery call is super important. Do I have people who find me and just go on to Studio U Education and buy my courses? Absolutely. And some of them I never hear from again, but I look them up and they're successful.
I appreciate that. I appreciate your time, your own brilliance, your boldness, love how brazen you are because that's how you get somewhere in this life. So, everybody listening, when passion meets purpose, your possibilities skyrocket. And when you stay in integrity with what your vital mission and your sacred work are, you can see in success stories like Shanna's that the sky really is the limit and you can live a life that you dream of. You can create exactly what it is that you were made to create. And for each of us, it's different. There is not one size fits all. So, taking the time to invest in yourself and really dive deep, often with the help of a support like you mentioned, you had business coaches and mentors, that is how you can sometimes find your higher purpose and continue to drive toward it with people who can teach you along the way. Thank you so much for your time and for joining us on the podcast.